Welcome in, Falcons fans. Your way Bryce Lewis back at it again for more Atlanta Falcons content. Falcons, one preseason game down. And so we'll talk about what I saw from the game, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But before we get into all that, if you watched the game or if you've heard, the game ended early, was suspended early last night due to an injury to Lions defensive back Maurice Norris. And scary injury on the field, kind of reminds you of the game we play and then the risk that the players take every day they go out there. Freak play. And, at a point, players gathered, prayed while the clock was running before they eventually decided to suspend the game. Right before I hopped on to start recording this, saw a post. I just looked at the Bleacher Report notification saying that Norris said that he's good. So that's great. Happy to hear that from him. Obviously, last night they said he was breathing and everything. Great work by the Atlanta Falcons and their staff and the medical staff and the hospital. And going about the right decision, I think, suspending the game. And sometimes, especially ever since the Damar Hamlin situation from a few years ago, I think it changes the way when you have those types of plays on the field. You kind of got to take a step back from the game itself and realize we're all humans at the end of the day. So really happy that he seems that he'll be okay. And, wish his family, everybody the best, and prayers up for sure. So that is the update there with that situation. Scary situation, of course. But switching gears now, obviously, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about what I saw from the preseason game Friday. And really, like I said, it's about the defensive side of the ball. I think that has been the most talked about side of the ball, I feel like, through camp. What I've seen through my 2 days I've been there, the last 2 weeks at camp, that's something I've kept a close eye on, and it continued to show in this game against Detroit. We started up front with the D-line. There's a reason, if you've been paying attention to other content creators or reporters in our community talking about the defense, especially on the defensive line, and hearing that, we kind of know who's starting, but they don't really want to give defensive line rotations. And the reason for that is because there's so much defensive line starting unit, because there's so much rotations going on. And so many guys are subbing in and out. So many guys can make a play. And I think you saw in this Detroit game, remember, that's technically outside of Arnold Ebiketie, you're probably your second team defensive line out there. And I think they had a very good day against Detroit's offensive line. Obviously, I know they weren't playing that. They're all their starters. But, you saw it. James Pierce Jr. early, active. James didn't have I don't believe James had a sack in this game. But he was disruptive. Detroit was trying to chip. Detroit was trying to do different things to block him, double teaming him at times. Clearly, they viewed him as a threat out there on the defense. He's very disruptive. You see the energy. And there were a couple of plays where, even though it wasn't a sack, it led to another guy contributing to a strip sack. I think one of his pressures contributed to a Brandon Dorless sack, or at least a strip sack. Tyquan Graham also had a very strong game with that perspective. But James has been great. There's a reason why James was viewed as the best pure pass rusher in the draft. Him and Abdul Carter were battling for it before the NFL draft, before the season, really, this past year for college football. So, and you've seen it with the Falcons. You've seen it in reports. You've seen it with everything, that he really is a very impressive pass rusher. And it's very clear in a preseason game that defenses are making that adjustment to try and take him out of the game and try to put an emphasis on him. It sounds like they know he has the type of game-wrecking potential that the Falcons have been looking for a very long time. So really excited about James and what he'll continue to do. And even Jalen Walker, active all over the place. There were times that he was even getting chipped by Detroit. So, so neither one of them had a sack in the game, but you could just see you know, why the Falcons really liked him and why I think people are so excited about these two. Because as they continue to grow and get better and get more experience, you're going to expect production to get high. And obviously, one thing you got to keep into account too with a lot of these things, a lot of these defenses that they're running are very vanilla. It's about more running your concepts, running them efficiently. Because you have to know how to do your concepts well before you can start doing all the extra stuff that defensive coordinators or offensive coordinators come up with on either side of the ball. But to see them do what they did today, to see the attention they got from the Lions up front because of the fact that they have that disruptive ability, again, just kind of shows you the excitement that people have about both of those players. So him and Jalen, I think, had good debuts, even though they didn't really register any sacks. You could see their impact at times in the game. And like someone I mentioned, Brandon Dorless. Dorless, obviously we know that he didn't really play a lot last year. But I remember when we drafted him, people thought with him having, I think, what was it, the first or third highest pressure rate in college football? I think, people thought, oh man, he could really become a disruptive player. And in this game, he was disruptive. He was a part of the first turnover where he made contact with Hendon Hooker, didn't bring him down, but basically helped blow up the play. And then they got the strip sack or the fumble after that. He was active. He had a sack himself. I mean, he was active. He was all over the field. He was attacking. Dorless, man, he is a guy who, him, Rook, all these guys expect to step up. He looks the part. He looks like what people thought we were going to get with him originally. And again, I think with Jeff Ulbrich there, I think he is allowing these players to play to their strength, which I will repeatedly say Jimmy Lake did not do that. He was not letting the players play to their strengths. As you could tell if a player's just not good, and you could tell when a player's getting held back by coaching. And I think you could tell with the defense last year, they were getting held back by coaching, where I think with some of the new additions and then some of the players from last year, I think Jeff Ulbrich, like I said, has really instilled a confidence. And I mean, listen, the defense was flying around. They were having fun. They played with a lot of energy. Exactly what you want to see from this defense. And Dorless, I think, can be a very big part of that. And again, he'll be a guy who'll be rotated in probably different spots across the defensive line. So I'm curious to see how he how he's used as we get into the season. But he really, really did some good things in this game. So really, really good. Happy with what Dorless did. Let's see who else we got here. Hold on one second. Khalil Kareem also had a sack in the game. He's a guy who, if you remember early in camp, he kind of started having some first, second team reps with the team. A guy who's been around since last year, got some good reps in last year. A guy that we never really thought about in terms of like, oh yeah, a guy who may be a part of what we're doing, but he very much will be. It'll be interesting to see how many defensive linemen they keep when the cuts actually come. But I mean, he's continued to impress out there. He's done some good things for sure. Let's see. Zach Harrison had some good showing. Like I said, Tyquan Graham blew up a couple of plays. Like I said, got that fumble recovery at the end of the half. Arnold Ebiketie, probably a guy that you would expect to start. Like I said, had a strip sack when Detroit was driving. It's funny. I saw a lot of people kind of tweeting out like, I'm happy for Ebiketie, but we can take AK out. We can let AK out, let the young guys play, let them do their thing. Because I think the only person we really didn't see a lot of, or at all, if I remember, is Braylon Trice, which, if Ebiketie doesn't play next week, you would assume Trice would get some run. I mean, but it also, again, just kind of shows you how deep the D-line is. I mean, this D-line, man, we knew the Falcons wanted to address the pass rush issue, but it feels like from what we've just seen and from what we've heard, the D-line is going to be really good. And it's not going to even be a one-man D-line. It's going to be so many different guys being able to impact the game. And I think that could be actually best-case scenario for the Falcons, just to have so many guys being able to kind of make a play if needed. So, really, really happy about what we saw from the D line. If you guys have any impressions of what you saw from the front, really, really go ahead and give your opinion on that. Because I think the D line was great last night and played well for the most part. Um, Josh Woods, I want to give him a shout out. He was all over the place. He forced a fumble, 6 tackles for loss. Really active linebacker. And like I said, with the opportunity with Troy, even though I was told, I've talked to some people at camp this past Tuesday, they don't think Troy's in danger of getting cut just because of the linebacker depth. So they think he'll probably stick around. But Josh Woods is a guy energy guy, great special teams guy, but showing a lot as a linebacker. He's a guy we definitely need to keep an eye on moving forward. D'Angelo Malone, who's kind of converted to a linebacker this past offseason. He had 3 tackles in the game. I think he did really good in his first action at that spot. I want to talk about cornerback Lamar Jackson. Obviously, he made up that big play to Detroit early in the game, but I think – not early in the game, but in the game. But I think for the most part outside of that, he was good. I think Kobe was fine. Datron Brooks continues to be good. A guy who some people thought he should have made the team last year. He's continued to have a strong camp. I think he had a good preseason game. I think when you look at the Fuller Watts battle, neither one of them really stood out in this game. I feel like this battle could be won in camp and practice more than the preseason. The preseason is more of anybody makes a play that gives them the edge, but I feel like that position will be won in camp. So I think that'll be a position obviously you'll continue to look at. And don't worry, I haven't forgot about DeMarco Hellams. DeMarco Hellams, man, lighting people up early in the game. Like I said, I think DeMarco Hellams and Jeff Ulbrich are a perfect match. A guy who wants violent physical football. You have a guy who some people consider DeMarco Hellams a throwback safety, heavy hitter. First, I do think the hit he had was clean. It's weird when you talk about what's defenseless and what isn't, because essentially it's like, it's almost like essentially if you have a play where a player's coming this way and a player's coming this way, they're basically essentially saying don't light them up, essentially, which is weird. But I think he kind of played with energy, flicking off in the camera. The defense, like I said, overall, you could just see the energy they played with, and just there's a different swag about this defense. Jeff Ulbrich has established it, and like I said, you've just heard it so much in camp about how this defense is playing. They love Jeff, like the defense, man, is going to be good. I think obviously again we won't know till we get into the actual regular season, and there's ones versus ones, and you're everybody scheming and trying to figure things out. But dude, like what you saw in this game, I think you're feeling pretty good about what the defense can be. And like I said, you have a lot of young players, so there's so much growth to be had as well. So this isn't even the peak of what the defense is going to be. There's just so much more to that could potentially come from that. So really excited to kind of see how these guys continue to move forward, grow, get better, and just do their thing. So, really, really good stuff from those guys. Offensively, there's not a lot to say. I thought Easton was fine, 15-18, 1 touchdown. Emory 4-5, 49 yards. Offensive line struggled in this game. I know that raised some concerns for some people. Maybe the Falcons get a little active with the offensive line group, not really being able to get to the second level, not really being able to create running lanes for the running backs. So you probably want a little bit more from that perspective on the offensive line. So that'd probably be the big thing you want to take away offensively. And for me especially, that's something I would probably take away on that side. Also, Dylan Drummond, 8 catches, in this game, 8 targets, 8 catches, 63 yards. He was a very favorite target of Easton. Drummond's been a guy I've he's like, it's funny when I've been in camp, he feel like he's near me a lot, so I see his last name a lot. And it's obviously he's with for the most part I've seen him with some second, third team, so I haven't seen him a lot, but he's been good. Really strong game for him. Chris Blair, touchdown, a guy who has been on this team for countless years, fighting for a spot. He seems to get better every year. He seems to make a play every year in preseason, but he also seems to get better every year. And maybe, like I said, that 6 wide receiver spot, man, that's going to be a tough position because you got a lot of guys playing well who very much deserve that spot. And Blair's one of those guys. Nick Nash, 3 catches in this game, 35 yards. And the Stills had 1. Quincy Stinner had 1. Simon from South Carolina had 2, and so on and so forth. So, overall, I think, there were some good things we saw from the Falcons. Like I said, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We'll have to see how that continues to move forward. Obviously, next week, Tennessee Titans coming to town for joint practices. I will be back out there again Tuesday for the joint practices. Cam Ward, Michael Penix, and see how the guys stack up against another team as they get prepared to play those guys next week. So, really exciting time, and I'm excited to continue bringing you guys more coverage. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely subscribe to the channel, like the video. Leave a comment down below about what stood out to you guys tonight from the preseason game. What is it that you felt like was like, all right, yeah, this was really good, or some things that maybe even concerned you a little bit. So really love to hear you guys' thoughts on the game as well. And obviously follow me on Twitter at Bricey_2K to keep up with all my takes around the team as well. But I appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode, and I'll see y'all next time.